Hello, this is Carrie Ridley with my video for suing the school system. In reading Education and Social Change, Contours in the History of American Schooling, Mr. Rury gives us a timeline of the evolution of public education. Each of his chapters demonstrates to the reader that changes in our schools and society are intimately connected. For example, in Chapter 1, Colonial America, Religion, Inequality, and Revolution, his writing shows us an early colonial life in America. Parents are responsible for their children's ability to read and write. Education was done in the home or church, and the parents wanted their children to possess these abilities to study and read and study the Bible. Education changed as communities changed. Along comes the American Revolution, which caused political and social disruption that led to thinking differently about education. The leaders of our new nation believed an educated citizen was essential to the success and future of America. This in turn led to colonial women needing to be educated to help their children learn the principles of American democracy. Historians labeled this the Republican motherhood. This then evolves into bigger changes in society and education in the 19th century. In Chapter 2, Mr. Rury writes that industrialization and market revolution expanded the economy tremendously. These changes in the economy drove changes in society and in our education system. A more unitary school system emerged from these changes. In Chapter 3, Mr. Rury speaks to the issues of ethnicity, gender, and race during the latter part of the 19th century. This was a time of accelerated change in our nation's economy, society, and education systems. The changing effects of schooling were dependent upon one's ethnicity, gender, and race. African Americans in the South received the minimal in schooling. This did not help in their social advancement. The problem of race and social status was also felt in the Hispanic, Asian, and American Indian communities. Women saw some advancement, but not anything earth-shattering. His book continues to show the intimate relationship between education and society up through our current century. Some of the changes that have happened during the evolution of education is, one, the availability of education to the masses of our country. Another is early public schools did not focus on academics. Instead, they focused on family, the virtues of family, religion, and community. Public schooling also was not widespread in the South until after the Reconstruction era after the Civil War. And until the 1960s, education was racially segregated. The most recent changes began in 1983 with a report entitled A Nation at Risk, and in the 2002 No Child Left Behind Act. In Chapter 2 of The Life and Death of the American School System, the author Dinah Ravitch wrote that A Nation at Risk report inspired a wave of school reforms intended to raise standards in public education. The writer sincerely wanted to improve public schools. A Nation at Risk report was not a legal mandate. She thought that the A Nation at Risk report, the vision was for good education and the betterment of life for individuals and for a democratic society. She also wrote in the same chapter that the No Child Left Behind Act made standardized scores the primary measure of a school's quality. These test scores became more than a measure of education, of our education system. They became the purpose of education, of the education system. This federal law made the rise and fall of test scores the critical variable in judging students, teachers, principals, and schools. She wrote, the vision of that No Child Left Behind Act was only to raise test scores. Several things that have not changed over time are sexism, racism, and poverty. Rury writes in his epilogue that racism, sexism, and social class inequality are still thriving in our schools. I believe racism through low expectation erodes a child's self-esteem and their ability to learn. Poverty is and has been an issue in the education of our children from the beginning. There has not been a concentrated effort to study the role of poverty in a child's educational life. Addressing the issue of poverty and its adverse effects on a child's performance in school has not been truly and honestly addressed at any time in the education reform movements. There is a misconception in America that poverty is just a matter of a family having less money. Poverty has diverse social, economic, cultural, and educational manifestations for the family and for communities. We have to, as a country, address that poverty is a major issue we need to tackle in the crisis occurring in our education system. It's an issue that has not changed throughout the evolution of society and education. In Chris E.A.'s video, Suing the School System, he addresses issues that have been written about in the readings for this course. Standardized testing is one of them. He also calls up the teachers being blamed for the failure of the school system and being underpaid for the job they are doing. Diana Revitich writes about how curriculum is being created by people who have no experience in education. Prince E.A. also mentions this in his video. He asked many questions about the issues in our educational system, but I do see that he graduated magna cum laude from full scholarship at the University of Missouri St. Louis with a BA in anthropology. This leads me to believe that he gained something from our public education system of our country. I'd like to end this video with a quote from the late Barbara Bush. If more people could read, write, and comprehend, we could be much closer to solving so many of the other problems our country faces today. Thank you.